I can't get no satisfaction. I can't get no satisfaction. And I tried, and I tried, and I tried, and I tried. I can't get no satisfaction. No, no, no. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, everybody. This is how I feel. I never could get any satisfaction, no matter where I go or what's been going on. But sometimes it feels good to sound like Mick Jagger when you're singing one of his songs. Hello, I'm the multi-voice reviewer. I have many voices, but one opinion. So there's one thing I want to ask you folks. Whose tongue is in our Rolling Stones logo? Anyway. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this will be the last review for this week. Well, for this month. So, I decided to end this review with something I haven't even talked about in a long time. And of course, as you can see, I'm wearing my Game Insane shirt. So, let's get all Game Insane here. How many of you guys ever enjoyed these plug and play games, huh? Back then, I remembered back then when people wanted to get video games, and sadly they couldn't they couldn't spend their money on expensive brand new game systems. So independent companies always keep making these plug and play games where they have video games inside and you plug it into the television and then you play them. I remember when I was young, I was being too much of a gamer and I always stick with PlayStation, but I couldn't get myself a PlayStation 2 because how expensive they were. So, my grandma bought me these plug-and-play systems, and I got these two that they first came out before they were getting out of hand, and they kept making more and more and more plug-and-play systems before they have those big company brands slapped on them. The first plug-and-play game I had was this. The ProTech video game system. Now this was pretty good. I mean, it had like over 200 games inside, and it has these two inputs that you plug into your television and an adapter plug-in, and of course it does take 4 AAA batteries. And this came out in 2003. Now this was pretty good at the time. I mean, I was kind of intrigued over this game until my grandma bought something that was way more interesting. And it is the Power Joy. Now I know some of you are thinking, from the shape of this, from the looks of this, it looks very similar to the Nintendo 64 controller. It has an AC, and it has the 2 plug-ins to the television, and an adapter to plug into your adapter. And this one works just like exactly like just like the Nintendo 64 controller. Of course, it has a switch, just like the other one. And of course, the buttons were just like pause and select. And of course, the restart. Now, you have like 5 games in this system. And of course, as you can tell, it has a trigger on the bottom, so if you're playing some shooting games from it. And guess what else it came with? This cartridge. It has more games in it. called the Power Joy PJ/001. You put this thing under here, and you play more games in it. But the plastic in this is a little, it's kind of a loose plastic system, so every time when my finger hits this, it kind of messes up. So I had to be more careful. But there's a lot of interesting games in it, and also, as you can see on the bottom, it has a Player 2 plugin, which the plugin looks a lot like a Sega plugin. And the second-hand controller is this. It looks very similar to the PlayStation, as you can see from its design. I remember my grandma bought this for me and my brother Randy, because he was a gamer too. But let's talk about the games these suckers have inside. Especially from the cartridge within. All the games they have in those systems and this one, what they are is all their games are a lot of more like a Famiclone. Now, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Famiclone, well, most of the games inside these things are actually Famicom games. And for those of you who don't know what a Famicom is a Japanese version of Nintendo. So when the Japanese made their game system, they created the Famicom, but when they brought it into America, they call it Nintendo. And of course, the Famicom design was way different than the Nintendo. And of course, when before we had Super Nintendo, they have Super Famicom. And the cartridge, actually their Famicom cartridge, looks more like this. And there was a lot of Namco, Famicom, Nintendo, and tons of unlicensed video games inside these things. Heck, you want to know something really, really strange, folks? In here, there was a game I found in here called Kitty. And when I hit it, guess what it was? A Dig Dug game. I was playing Dig Dug, but I'm not playing the character, the player in the game Dig Dug. The player looked a lot like Hello Kitty. So I'm playing Dig Dug as Hello Kitty. But I guess due to certain copyrights, I guess they couldn't use the name Hello Kitty, so they call it Kitty instead, and it was in this cartridge. But I do enjoy those tank battlefield games, where you play a tank and you go around shooting your tank missiles to your enemy. I mean, some of these games are copycats, but they're very entertaining nonetheless. And then when the plug and play games became so popular, that's when I had this. One thing I did remember that I did bought during the time when the plug and play things were getting really popular, I remember I got myself my first company named plug and play game, the Atari Plug and Play. Yeah, I decided to get this because Pong was in it, and I wanted to have the experience of playing Pong on this. Imagine that. But I tell you, these plug-and-play things were a lot better than those Tiger handheld games. Yeah, I used to buy Tiger handheld games until I discovered how crappy they are. And then I kept getting more of the plug-and-play stuff. This one. Mortal Kombat! Yeah, I got myself a plug-and-play Mortal Kombat arcade game. Now, ever since I got this game, I beat this game as playing all the different characters, and this was my big experience on Mortal Kombat. I didn't have it on Sega or Super Nintendo because my grandma wouldn't allow me until I'm older. But this was pretty fun. And then my grandma bought me this one, which I mentioned it on my Sega review, either Sega Tatsuo review or my Sonic the Hedgehog, the Sega Genesis plug-in arcade thing. And it's the one where I was talking about, where I said that their hand controls look a lot like the Wii control. It's like it's still trying to compete with Nintendo. And then all of a sudden they decided to make some Flashback games. Now, I didn't buy any Sega Flashbacks because I just bought my PS3 CD of Sega Genesis. But one thing I did buy of a Flashback is this. Atari Flashback 2? Yeah, I would have got the first one, but it didn't look nothing like the Atari. Until when they made part 2, where it looked more like the Atari. And I did enjoy the games in this Atari Flashback 2. Until it kept getting, until it kept making more and more Atari games like this. I didn't buy all the Atari Flashback versions, except I got this one, and I hope this is the last. Although I have heard that they're planning to do another Atari Flashback, I bought Atari Flashback number 9, where it has a lot more games than Atari Flashback 2. Atari Flashback 2 has like 40 built-in games. This one has 110. And it has all the games from the original Atari, all the way from the latest Atari before the video game stock market crash. But I also have this Flashback. What I have here are two visions. The Intellivision Flashback and the ColecoVision Flashback. Yeah, I remember Coleco, and I did have a Coleco. And those two have like over 60 of their video games built inside. Close my eyes, I'm getting double vision. You know, one of these days I'm going to review Intellivision and Coleco and give out more details about these things. Because there's a lot I need to talk about the Intellivision and the ColecoVision. The last plug-and-play game system I got was, of course, my last, until I decided to get myself a PlayStation 4, that this time works. What I have here in my hand is something that well, remember when I said I have a soft spot for DC video games? Well, I had this. The Hero Portal DC Superheroes Watchtower game. Pretty neat, huh? Now, these things supposed to be working kind of like the, like those Infinity games, or the, Lego Portal games. One thing that's really neat about these things is this. Is that this thing, this one's battery operated, and it didn't have an AC adapter. It didn't have like a plug-in adapter in it. I wish it had, so I don't have to spend on the batteries. But this one was pretty neat about this. And why is it called a portal? Well, this thing comes with two figurines of Batman and Superman. And it has these things in the bottom where you can hook it to the thing so you can play the characters. Snazzy, huh? And of course, you had to buy the other figurines separate, which I did collect them all. You can play the game as the Flash, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and Cyborg. Now, this was a neat game. I mean, it didn't have any dialogues or, it didn't have any dialogues, but the graphics of the game was pretty neat. It didn't have a cutscene in it. You just have these characters popping up and have, you know, text words on the bottom. Where you're supposed to stop Darkseid for trying to control the Watchtower, or Lex Luthor, who's trying to control the Watchtower. So you have to play all these superheroes to go through the mission in order to beat the game. Not much of the imagination, but it's really fun. And you know me, I'm always the Batman player. 'Cause I'm the Knight, the Dark Knight. I'm Batman. But sometimes you have to be Superman in order to beat the rest of the game. Or the Green Lantern. On brightest day and blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worships evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's light. Or playing the Flash. Gotta go fast. Or Wonder Woman, the Amazonian princess. Or the Cyborg. Booyah! Like I said, I always loved DC. And I always, I mean, Marvel have some really interesting superheroes, but I just have a soft spot for DC. I just wish they do the movies right. That's my problem. I mean, it's not easy being a DC fan when their movies are not doing too good. Well, this here is my review for the day. And you know what? This is the end of the month of September. And you know what what the next month's gonna be? Simple. Halloween! That's right. So you know what that means? That means that Multi-Voice Arena will be coming next month. And you know what, folks? I got some very delicious, scary and spooky Halloween-themed franchise I am dying to review. Oh, I'm telling you, folks, beware, you're in for a scare fun. So if you like my review of the plug-and-play video games, please leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe for more reviews. So, happy Halloween. Now, if you don't mind, I got some games to play.